does chronic stress contribute to physical pain from a somatic perspective?
Oh, it's such a brilliant question. So stress is muscle tension, right? One of the ways that it manifests, that it shows up in our system, is as muscle tension. And in this method of somatics, what you're learning to do for yourself, this is where you get the empowerment and the autonomy back, because I teach you how to do this for yourself. I'm not fixing you.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning to relax your muscles for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And when you relax your muscles, you're literally taking stress out of your system. And you might notice when you've been really busy and really stressed, everything tightens up.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe.
You know, I keep hearing over and over again from my clients and from my followers that one of the things that is an issue as they begin to age is dealing with pain, dealing with the pain response, dealing with the reason why they're having the pain, and dealing with what they can do to move past that. And so many of them have just given up. They've just decided that this is just how it's going to be. But you know what I always say, that aging doesn't mean that you have to be sick. Aging doesn't mean that you're just going to grow old and get sick and just throw up your hands and say, oh, well, I'm getting old. That's not true. You can live a long time and be healthy during that time and maybe just, die in your sleep, pass out somewhere. That's it. Or you can live a long time and be in pain, in hospitals, having surgeries, having tubes coming in and out, all of them. But that's not the preference I don't think that anyone has. You really do have a choice. And the V.I.B.E Living Podcast is all about giving you information so you can make choices for your overall wellness. So today we have with us Karen Stattner, who is a somatic habit expert out of the United Kingdom. And she offers one-line weekly movement classes, one-on-one sessions, and introductory courses and workshops that really can help people deal with their pain. Reason being is that she was in a very painful situation when she fractured her back during a riding accident. So I guess, Karen, that gives you some personal expertise as well as your much learned expertise on this topic. Welcome to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you, Linus. It's great to be here. Any opportunity to share the work of clinical somatics, I'm always grateful for having an opportunity to do that.
Well, let's kind of digress a little bit for those who do not know, and I don't profess to know the official actual definition of it, but what is somatics?
So somatics is an umbrella term, and you and your listeners might notice that this word somatics is being used. You might find that you're hearing it more and more. So somatics comes from the word soma, a Greek word soma, which means living body experienced from within.
Okay.
So when we are talking about somatics, we're talking about a focus on internal sensations, the felt sense, our unspoken world, if you like. So there are lots of things that can be experienced, lots of modalities and experiences we can have that are somatic. Mm-hmm. It's about noticing the internal sensations, the feeling of whatever it is that you might be engaging in. So some of your listeners might have come across methods such as somatic yoga, somatic therapy, somatic breath work. Mm-hmm. So all of these are methods and approaches to ourselves with a focus on the feeling of it.
So how does what you do help with people in particular who have had a painful experience like fractures and things like that, like you experienced?
So the method of somatics, the type of somatics that I teach is called clinical somatics. It was developed by a genius neuromuscular pioneer called Thomas Hanna. And this is all about restoring functional, pain-free movement. It's almost as if we're kind of putting ourselves back to our factory settings before the accumulation of injuries and stress has layered up. So it's a method, a somatic method, focusing on the feeling of the method to restore pain-free functional movement.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about your journey. What happened and how did you go through your recovery process?
So I had a lovely day out with my friend riding until it wasn't so lovely and I had an accident. I fell off, which resulted in a broken back. And fast forward, however many weeks and months, I was told as part of my recovery to take up Pilates. This was something that I'd never done before. I'd never done that kind of exercise before. It was all a brave new world to me. But I was told that because I'd injured my back, I would need to strengthen my core. And this was a message that I was told over and over and over. It became part of my story, really, that I had to strengthen my core. It became part of my identity. So I went through all my physio, I did all my exercises, did all my homework. I was very diligent. I was a very well-behaved student. I did Pilates without fail. And I still had pain and I still had restricted movement. And it didn't make sense to me. I didn't actually understand why I was in pain because the injury had healed, the fractured bones had mended. And there wasn't anything structural that would necessarily be causing me pain and restricted movement. And essentially, I just didn't understand my body. I didn't understand what I was feeling. Even though I was strong, even though for however many years I'd been strengthening my core. And because of the pain, I was spending a fortune on other people fixing me, repeatedly going for massages. And I love a really good massage. But I was so dependent on them. As soon as I'd had one and felt some relief, I'd soon be booking in the next one within a number of weeks in order to feel okay. And I was so dependent. I didn't like being dependent in that way because I felt like I'd lost any kind of control or autonomy of myself. And also it was really expensive. This wasn't a great thing to continue for years to come. So it was actually through my Pilates teacher who introduced me to the work of Thomas Hanna and clinical somatics. I'd not come across it before, didn't know anything about it. And I tried it. I went to my first class. I had my first experience and it absolutely blew my mind. It blew my mind in a way that I was so utterly confused and astounded by the fact that I couldn't actually do the simplest, smallest of movements. And I was someone who I thought knew my body, knew movement. I'd been strengthening through Pilates for years. I can move, I can do exercise. And it came down to the simplest of movements that I couldn't feel. There were actually parts of my back that I didn't realize I couldn't even feel, that I therefore couldn't control and move. My shoulder blades, for example, I thought I could move them. But being guided in such an intentional way, I realized that I had these whole blind spots that I couldn't control. And it completely blew my mind. I just couldn't understand how there was so much of my system that I could not feel and control and coordinate. And the curiosity got the better of me. I knew that there was so much for me to learn here that I wasn't understanding. And so I dove into it. I took classes, I read, I did my training to teach other people how to experience this for themselves. I've been teaching for about 10 years now. So I'm a certified clinical somatic educator. And it is to say it was the missing piece of the puzzle in my recovery and being able to connect with myself is to put it very mildly. It's the method that helped me to understand, why was I in pain? Why was my pain showing up where it was? But actually, more importantly, for me to create long-term change, it helped me to understand and release the underlying cause. This is the thing with so much pain. Pain is like a symptom. It's what we feel on the surface. And those symptoms can be debilitating and they can take all of our awareness. And if we're always trying to treat the symptom, for example, I was going to massage therapists to release these parts of my back that were painful. Actually, it's always going to be a short-term win. It's always going to be a quick fix because it's not addressing the root cause.
Not addressing the causation, which actually is very traditional kind of mode of thinking in Western medicine. It's all about fixing the symptoms and not peeling back the layers of causation. So what I hear you saying is that somatics can even bring you in touch with your body in certain ranges of motion that you didn't even know were an issue.
Exactly. And what it addresses is something called, this was a phrase that Tom Hanna coined, sensory motor amnesia. And if we break that down, sensory is to feel, motor is to move, amnesia is to forget. So we have these areas that are like blind spots within our system that we don't even know we don't know we can't feel them. It's how chronic muscle tension exists within us. We actually can't feel it. It's like blind spots in our awareness, in our conscious awareness. We've literally held on to that tension for so long and so effectively. We've learnt it so well, like any habit. It becomes a subconscious process. It's just happening all the time. So we have to bring awareness to those areas that we can no longer feel, that are constantly being held tight, in order to release them. And when we release that hidden, constant tension, funnily enough, it eases our symptoms, and then we can move more freely. And when we can move more freely in the way that we're designed to, that gives us a foundation for anything and everything we want to experience in life, be it yoga or running or dancing or strengthening or sitting on the sofa comfortably or sitting down on the floor with the kids. It gives us a base layer from which to embrace all of life.
To build from there. Now, I'm just curious, how does chronic stress contribute to physical pain from a somatic perspective?
Oh, it's such a brilliant question. So stress is muscle tension, right? One of the ways that it manifests, that it shows up in our system, is as muscle tension. And in this method of somatics, what you're learning to do for yourself, this is where you get the empowerment and the autonomy back, because I teach you how to do this for yourself. I'm not fixing you. You're learning to relax your muscles for the long term. And when you relax your muscles, you're literally taking stress out of your system. And you might notice when you've been really busy and really stressed, everything tightens up.
Yes, I mean,
relaxed. You go kind of
doing a TikTok live, and I was on for 2 hours. And some of the people that were on the live, I mean, I had hundreds of people in there, and someone said, "Don't forget to take a break and kind of shake out and breathe." And all. So I don't have time for that. She's what? But you're absolutely right. There are, it's interesting because I know that there's some core somatic techniques that you probably use. Can you share one with us in terms of helping people to ease their tension and stress?
Oh, for sure. I'd love
right
to.
Now?
For sure. You'll be ready for this after your 2 hours on TikTok, right? So there is a method that we use in order to take tension out of our muscles. And this might sound really counterintuitive to your listeners. So we're often told to stretch where we feel tight and where we feel like we've lost our suppleness and we're no longer flexible. We're often told to stretch, right? Stretch and you'll get more flexible. And here's the really interesting thing about chronic tension and our nervous system. Where we have chronic tension, so that sensory motor amnesia I was talking about, that can be the root cause of our muscular pain, where we have that, stretching does not release it.
Mm.
So we can stretch all day long, every day, and find that we might increase some flexibility where we don't have chronic tension, but there's kind of a bit that we never quite get to. We can never quite release it.
Mm.
So in order to release that chronic tension, actually we have to go into it even more. We have to tighten into it before we then release and lengthen. And this is a skill called pandiculation. That's a term that was taken from the veterinary world. It's what your cats and dogs do 40 plus times a day. They do it every time something bothers them. Every time they get up from a nap, they move position. They pandiculate. They actually go into the tension. So we turn up the tension and then we slowly release out of it.
So it all kind of, I'm a dancer from a previous life for many, many years. So it kind of reminds me of, what's the word in modern dance? Oh God, I can't even release. Contract, almost like contracting?
For sure, yeah. To tighten, to go into the tension, we have to contract our muscles. We tighten into them even more. We have to notice that we're doing that consciously. And then with awareness, we slowly release out of it.
Okay, so I was just thinking to myself, so I'm going to do a contraction, let's say that I would do in dance, which contraction here. Okay. And so you're saying the release would be kind of releasing slowly, as we would say, all the way up through the tip. Is that the concept you're talking about?
So how about I guide you through an experience of this, right? And then your listeners can follow along as well. So just take a moment to settle into where you're sat or where you're stood. And then let's go with the shoulders. So neck and shoulders is often an area that people share with me that is tense and tight and niggly.
We also ignore it a lot of times too.
Right. And therefore we can't change it, right? We can't change where we ignore and avoid. So bring your awareness to your shoulders. And this might be where they are a lot of the time for many people. Go ahead and shrug your shoulders up towards your ears. Shrug them on up and take a moment there to notice where you've tightened into the side of your neck, the top of your shoulders. Can you feel that? And then wherever you feel that increased tension, take a breath or two to slowly melt them back down. Keep breathing and releasing. And then just let yourself rest wherever you land. And you might even indulge in a post yawn sigh and feel them just release a little bit more. And then let's explore that again. So go ahead and shrug your shoulders on up. Feel that space between your shoulders and your neck tighten, contract. And then this time, as you slowly release, notice if the release is smooth or bumpy. They glide back down. Or are there a few bumps?
Yeah, it's a little bit bumpier. Is it supposed to be?
That's really cool that you notice the bumps, because one of the ways that hidden tension, chronic muscle tension shows up in these movements is that the release is a little bit bumpy or shaky. We want to go slowly enough so that we can get a good look at that. When we move quickly, we don't get to notice the detail and what's taking place. So when we notice that, we can smooth it out, we can slow it down in order to release that tension.
That's very interesting because, and the reason why the shoulders and the neck are very important is that we're talking about range of motion and how you found out you had range of motion that you weren't even using. That is so true with the necks. I know for me, that's an area that I just ignore, but sometimes if I'm turning my head a certain way, I'm like, oh, what is that? What? what is that? And a lot of us nothing, because it's not like an important part of what it is that I do. But I just recently started going back to dance class after 4 years because I just missed it so much. And needless to say, the first class was totally humiliating. But one of the things that I noticed was this constriction or lack of flexibility in my neck area. I had not noticed it before. So you're saying the kind of work that you do will, first of all, bring an awareness to that, but also begin to loosen that area up in a way that a massage therapist cannot, because you peel back the layers and deal with the causation. Is that about right?
Exactly. I love the way you describe that. So you're going to the root cause of your muscular pain and restricted movement.
Right.
When you create the change rather than someone else putting their hands on you to make you more comfortable, when you create the change, it's long term, because
I like that.
whose brain controls your muscles?
Mine.
It's
And
your brain, right?
I
Your
love that
brain is the
concept. I
control
love that
center.
concept. I love
And
that
this is
concept.
This is actually movement education. It's not exercise, it's not therapy. It's you remembering how your system is designed to function. So, this is why I refer to this method as being empowering and giving back autonomy, because you are the one that's learning to create your own comfort for the long term, for as long as you want to keep moving and doing what you love, right?
All right.
Create
Okay.
the
I have a,
change, you save it long term. You get it
yes.
to keep. You
Okay.
get
I have
to love
another
your dance
question.
classes forevermore.
Right. I have another question, because one of the humiliating parts was I remember my stretch was never like, a straight line, but it was pretty darn close. And my stomach was all the way to the floor, all of that. And is back from up until 62. And then slowly, because I wasn't working out as much and doing so much overtime, the flexibility cut. So I'm wondering, for dancers out there who are trying to maintain a stretch or get a stretch back, especially when it comes to their straddle, which unlocks all the other things in terms of extensions and things of that nature. What do they need to be doing from a causation standpoint?
So it's setting your foundation for whatever it is you want to do, right? So coming back to that and remembering that actually where we have chronic tension that's accumulated through life, because we all have it. No one's immune from this. It's the great leveler. Stress accumulates, injuries accumulate. If we don't peel away that tension, it's going to stay there.
Mm.
It's a little bit like never taking one item of clothing off before you put the next one on. If you keep piling on the layers of clothes and not take off what went before, you end up wearing everything you own, literally carrying it around with you. And that's going to affect your comfort, your freedom, your ability to move. So this practice is about peeling away that accumulation of muscle tension so that you then get to use them. You get to strengthen them. You get to create all the beautiful shapes that you want to make in your dance classes. So go back to restoring your function, and then you're ready for anything you want to indulge in. Then you've got more access to even more of you to enjoy whatever lights your heart up, whatever makes your soul sing. Then you've got access to that. There isn't any pain that needs to be pushed through. If we're pushing through pain, this kind of mantra of you have to work harder in order to get results. Actually, the opposite is true of this method. If your body is saying this really hurts me, let's listen to that. And even though this method is a focus on awareness and doing less, which can be really challenging for us in a culture where we're told to
Very
work
challenging for
hard.
dancers. Are you kidding? I mean, we're all about abuse of the body.
Right. And we put status onto those who work really hard.
Yeah.
This method is about doing less. And what's really fascinating and never ceases to amaze me is how the minute I approach my practice in a less effort kind of way, the results I get are so much greater. And
Interesting.
that mindset in itself is a lot to overcome.
I was going to talk to you about that. Where does intuition and mindset and all that come into a somatic way of being, so to speak, or somatic practice?
I mean, it's totally embedded. It's completely embedded within it. And there is no, so in this practice, we refer to ourselves as a soma.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, we're talking about a whole system that has no separation between emotional, physiological, psychological. There's no mind-body split. We are just one system. And when we think about intuition, intuition is a feeling, right? It's something that you feel. It's not a knowing or a thought. It's something that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all about the felt sense. And when we experience any range of all of our incredible range of emotions that we experience, actually, there's a physical process taking place. And what's really interesting with a muscular pattern is that certain emotions have predictable muscular holding patterns. So, for example, where you've felt nervous or scared or anxious,
Mm-hmm.
we feel that when we have a tightening of our chest, a tightening of our belly. So when we start to release those muscular patterns, we also start to affect and release the emotional states that are connected with them. Just like for people that are constantly on the go, that never stop, that never sit down, that never rest, that never take a moment just to be, the muscular pattern with that kind of stress is through the back of the body. And we might view those people as being, having a really good posture, but actually their back muscles are chronically tight. We start to relax our back muscles, then we start to quieten down and slow down.
Mm. Yeah,
We put so much focus on the stories in the thoughts in our head, but actually we are sensing living organisms. We were sensing and moving before we were thinking. But we've been in an era of thinking and analyzing. And I think in a time where there is so much access to information,
mm-hmm.
that we misinterpret information for understanding and embodying. And this practice is about remembering that we are a sensing, feeling organism. And there is more information that travels from our system to our brain than the other way. So let's start reconnecting with that innate intuition that we've always had. It's just got layered up with our way of living over time.
If you could share one message about healing through your body, what would it be?
That no matter who you are, what you do, where you live in the world, what status you feel you have, or what experiences you've been through, you always have an opportunity to create change. And we never stop losing the ability to create that until our last breath. We always have the opportunity to create change if we so choose.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for all the wonderful information and opening up the world of soma, so to speak, and what we actually can do with our bodies that we don't even think about. For our listeners who want to further connect with you and explore your offerings and the things that you can do to help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I'm on Instagram at Somatic Habit, and I also have a website which is somatichabit.co.uk, and there's lots more information on there. There's opportunities to try this for free, to have an experience of it, because I could literally talk and write about this all day long. But at some point, we just have to feel it. It's about the feeling of it, right?
That's
And then
amazing.
I also have my book available on Amazon as well, which is Somatic Movement.
Fabulous. Well, all of
That's
that, all those links are in your show page, her website, her social media, and her book. I encourage all of you to explore this world because it's something that is really unique and different, especially in Western culture. And it's something that we need to take a look at, incorporate in our self-care plan routines. I've been talking a lot on TikTok in particular about the importance of having a self-care plan or a toolkit for as we age, because guaranteed aging is going to happen. Ain't nothing you can do about that. But you can do something about how you react to it. And if you have an awareness of the different kinds of things that you might want to try, it's fantastic, because the reality is information is power. But acting on that information is what makes you powerful. So I hope that you will take this information and act on it and figure out how you can add this to your self-care plan. Karen, thank you so much for joining us on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. It's been wonderful having you here today.
Oh, it's been great chatting with you. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. And thank you to all of you who have chosen to stop by the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. I know there's 50 million podcasts out there you can be listening to. And the fact that you've chosen to spend some time with me means a lot to me. So go ahead and please share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, like, comment. I want to know what you're thinking about with this podcast and with all the others that you see on the show page as well. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a fantastic day. And don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.